Good morning, everyone. It's about 5:10 in the morning, and I'm going to the ATD Conference this morning. It's about an hour away. You gotta go catch a train. This is much earlier than I wake up most of the time, and I definitely stayed up to watch Game of Thrones. So, okay. A little tired. Hopefully, we'll make it. Should be meeting up with some people today. And so I'm prepared for this morning, trying to get a little bit more awake. I definitely have my trusted coffee mug full of coffee, and swig this down. About to get into the car and head out. So we'll see you there.
So I'm 2 days out from ATD, so now is a great time to kind of sit back and reflect on that time and just kind of talk with you guys a little bit about what I experienced, what happened while I was there, my general feelings on conferences, and some of the main themes that I thought were interesting. So when I think about conferences, I don't go to many. The reason I don't go to many conferences is because a lot of times I'm there to see what people have been doing for the rest of the year. You know, what did you do up until now? What does that look like? And then how do I measure up in my own professional work and professional development? So for me, I do try to go to a conference at least once a year. There are multiple conferences I could go to. I could go to the ATD one, which I did go to. There's also PSYOP, which was also in DC this year. One of the great parts about these kinds of conferences are that they tend to go to the same city. So if you live near that city, you might as well go to at least one of the two or three that are going to be in the area. The third, of course, being SHRM. I don't really identify with SHRM as much because even though I tend to work within human resources, I'm not a human resources person necessarily. I do get the emails, I do get the updates on employment law and some of the harder topics in human resources. As far as professional development, organizational development, design, and some of those other topics, especially change, I tend to go with either ATD or PSYOP. Both ATD and PSYOP kind of touch on the things that I need to know. So PSYOP will go more science, and then ATD will go more applied. So this year I went applied, and the conference was okay. But as I said, I really have more of a cynical view on conferences and what they can give me. But one of the things that I really do get out of it is some kind of connection to my field and what's going on. The theme of what I heard at ATD when I was going to all the different meetings was mostly around change. Because even if we're talking about training, they were framing it in a change context. There was something driving that training. In those that I saw, people were addressing the same thing that you hear all the time, that change is scary, it can be fraught with layoffs and other things that can happen that are unknown and definitely make you uncomfortable. Now, what we're trying to address is that change doesn't always have to be scary, and we can do it in a systemic way where it's really going to be beneficial to the organization. All changes should be beneficial to the organization. Positive changes to an organization should never be an act of futility where you've done that change over and over and over and nobody's gotten it right because they haven't done the pre-work. Or some executive or somebody in leadership's view of what should happen, even though they don't have any data to support it, they have no buy-in from the people, and they don't work to get those things. The truth is that 70 to 80% of all changes fail. Now, they fail for a lot of different reasons, but again, it goes back to that pre-work. If you're not doing your pre-work to change, you are going to likely have a failure. People don't like doing the pre-work because they just want to get moving. They want to see something happen. The truth is, if you're going to have a successful change, you need to do the work beforehand. You cannot just sit there and expect that because you dictated something out, it's going to be successful. And that's the message for everybody here who's thinking about change management or going into change management. Anytime you're talking about a change initiative going forward, you should have certain things set up so that you're successful, so that the organization is successful. Nobody wants to have a bad change. Everybody wants to have a change that everybody can accept. Accepting change is hard. And if we do our work on the front end, we can have better work on the back end, where we're actually seeing changes happen. The other thing I saw around training and change was the idea of coaching leaders. Now, we hear about executive coaching, and it's great when it happens. And I'm a big advocate for executive coaching. It's something that I'm hoping to do a little bit more in my career as I go along. I've done a little bit already, and I really enjoy the work. The idea is that we're coaching up people to do better at change. Right now, an easy way to go ahead and try to get people to learn a little bit more about change is to run them through a course. It's a cheap and easy thing to build out a class and to run people through it. What we're running into is the fact that even if you do that, there's no knowing if they're going to adopt the lessons and adopt what you're trying to get them to learn. There's a problem with knowing that there's a transfer of knowledge in a meaningful way that changes a set of behaviors or ideas. So starting the conversation is very important. And this is where we get into dialogic constructs and trying to figure out how we can have and maybe even engineer a conversation with somebody to get them to understand their own thoughts and biases on change. Because those show up when they start to support any kind of change. Regular coaching of executives and senior leaders for change is a very integral part of the change process, especially if you're trying to build that culture. We should all, in our businesses, be trying to foster a culture of change. The one thing that is very, very consistent over the last 10 to 20 years is that the number of changes are increasing. And the number of changes happening on the same time frame are also increasing. So not only do we have more of them, they're happening at the same time. And that can cause fatigue, change fatigue. Think about any time that you've been asked to keep changing the way you do a process in your job. That's change fatigue. It happens too much, you get tired, and you don't want to do it anymore. If we foster this culture of change, if we can foster it down to front line, then hopefully we'll be reducing change fatigue, but we'll also be increasing the acceptability of changes. In the future, I really see this going very, very quickly. Changes will be something that are just well accepted in your organization. And it's mostly because we're dealing with populations that are younger and grew up in a time where technology and other things were implemented quickly, so they had to quickly adopt and adapt to all of the changes going on around them. This weekend, for those of you who do not know me that well, I'm going to Michigan. My hometown is doing a Highland Games over Memorial Weekend, and I compete in Scottish heavy events. That means I'm throwing 56-pound weights, 28-pound weights, as high and as far as I can. I flip trees for fun, and I don't get paid to do this, so I will come back very sore, and it's all my own fault. But I'll have a great time. Get to be around my family, get to be around friends that I haven't seen for a while. And if you're wondering why I've got the little Scotty dog in a kilt back here, it's because of that. I'm very interested in my Scottish ancestry, and my wife also plays bagpipes and a pipe band. So I get to go watch them as well compete. So this weekend I'll be taking you guys with me on this trip. We're going to get up really early in the morning on Friday, and we're going to head up to Michigan. And hopefully at the end of that weekend, I'll stop by and I'll talk to a good friend Noah Izat. Noah is somebody I met as my TA when I was an adjunct professor, and he was actually doing his own instructor work at a different college at the same time. Noah is a talent management professional, and he's almost done with his doctorate. Good guy, gonna have a great conversation, and I look forward to bringing you guys with me. Okay, have a great weekend, have a safe Memorial weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye.